You know,
there you go.
The losing streaks for both of them are about to end, or at least for one of them is about to end. We are into picks and bans. Zed's taken away, denying that from Shiphtur. They don't want to give that away.
Yeah, that is one of his go-to champions. He loves being on the duelist and the assassin. It's just pretty much encompasses his playstyle completely.
So taking one away, the globals have been removed for Vileroze and Echo, Twisted Fate and Shen off the table as Velocity wrap up their bans, taking away the Riven as was predicted, and finally Jace to wrap that one up.
So a first pick Elise is no surprise. Very, very strong in every single lane, that champion. And again, you can build her offensively, go for spell penetration to boost the damage that's her base damage of her kit, or you can build full tank and still get out a decent amount.
And thanks to the percentage HP, works in their favor. Zach is still up, as is that Jarvan. And Nintendude likes to run the Jarvan in the jungle, so we'll see what Coast decides to lock in. If this Ahri gets locked in, there we go. Shiphtur, he wants the playmaking fox.
He remembers last time they played Velocity, he had a fun time with that Ahri. And going up against an immobile champion like that Anivia, who has one of the lowest base move speeds, it really is a lot easier for someone like Ahri to land those skill shots that she counts on for getting those level 6 kills. So he can really just use his Spirit Rush to dodge the Q from Anivia, and from there it should be pretty easy pickings.
Yeah, it's very difficult to lock down that Ahri in lane and really, hard counter her. There are a few champions that work particularly well. We'll see if Velocity are going to lock into them in. A lot of discussion on the board right now. It's 20 seconds to go. The world is their oyster because they can put that Elise absolutely anywhere if they wanted to. If they wanted to lock down that Anivia, they've got their mid lane, and it does look like they're currently hovering over support. But for the time being, nothing's locked in or confirmed.
Ooh, it's the very prominent Nami now. I mean, she's really big over in EU.
Yeah.
And
probably,
surprise.
I would go so far as to say #1 support in EU right now is the Nami pick.
Then, of course, we bring over Edward, and then he's the one running Nami over and over again. So definitely it's that EU flavor making its way over to North America.
So we do see that Orianna has been locked in. So in theory, if Echo is able to get that full combo down onto Shiphtur's Ahri, could blow her up. But the onus is on either Shiphtur to dodge it or on Echo to land it instantly.
So I think the main thing actually with that Orianna pick is that's just a lot safer than the Anivia. He doesn't have to worry as much about the 1v1 and the all-in from Shiphtur. So he's going to be able to shield himself, plus the speed boost from casting Dissonance while you're standing on it will allow him to dodge those skill shots from Ahri, which is basically all of Ahri's damage dealing spells. If she doesn't hit the skill shots, she's not going to kill you.
For the rest of the composition for Coast, a Gragas and a Jarvan have been locked in. So this could be a Grungle.
Could be.
And maybe a top lane Jarvan. It would fit into ZionSpartan's play style, those sort of bruisery type champions. And it would be another unique type of composition for Coast.
Yeah, we saw the failure of Nintendude Jungle Gragas already once. But that was a lot due to the mid laner that they chose then was Lux also, who lines up the full combo. And it just happens that Nintendude actually started knocking away the enemies out of Shiphtur's combo. And with Ahri, that's not as big as a problem because she's going to be repositioning herself multiple times in the fight. So it could be a second try for that jungle Gragas, or they could even just switch it up and go normal here and send Zion on a Gragas, because Zion plays Gragas too.
So we'll have to see how they swap the champions around in this last minute to round out the composition for Velocity. They've locked in that Twitch once again, and MapleStreet, the pressure's on him. In the 2 games they've played against Velocity, he's gone 5, 5, and 10 as far as his statistics are concerned. And we keep highlighting how if MapleStreet has a winning game, it's because he's just stomped his opponents. And if he has an average game, they lose, unfortunately.
Well, it looks like they're taking a page out of that curse book, and they are going to use that Twitch Nami combo, which we saw extremely effective. You can land that bubble. There's so much damage from Twitch, even in the early game, because of the expunge and the true damage ticking away from the poison, then they can land very quick kills with that combo.
So we'll have to see whether or not those Aqua Prisons are actually going to be able to lock up any members of Team Coast to secure the kills. We do see for the time being 5 seconds left on the clock. It doesn't look like anybody's going to be swapping. It is going to be that top lane Gragas with Flash Teleport as well. So it has been secured. Double AP comp coming out from the side of Team Coast, and we'll have to see if they can make that damage stick.
I wonder what the build that he's going to go with in that top lane, because Gragas, you can actually build him pretty tanky too. He has a lot of innate sustain from the passive and the regen, so if you build some defenses, then it's very hard to push him out of lane, even in the top lane.
We'll have to see how they decide to match it up, if they are going to go straight head-to-head, 1v1, or whether or not Velocity are going to have something else in mind. This is, of course, a battle between the 7th and 8th place teams right now. Coast sitting 7 and 12, and Velocity sitting 4 and 15.
Well, if they go for the 2 versus 1, then Gragas has great wave clear. He's got plenty of AoE, so that would actually be a decent setup here for Zion as well. And when you run teleport, you have the option of overextending a little bit to clear those waves and take some damage, because you know that you can recall safely once and come back at full life, also having bought items.
So we'll see how well ZionSpartan plays out this early game. He started off with the Oktoberfest Gragas skin. Sincerely hope we get a listen in on the recall music in a moment or two when it eventually happens. For the time being, defensive posture for Velocity, looking like they're going to cover all of the entrances to at least their side of the jungle.
And this is a utility mastery Gragas up here for Zion, as you can see with that Biscuit of Rejuvenation. So he is going for the extra cooldown reduction as well.
Well, we do see right now, Coast, however, they've stacked up their numbers. Grouped up as a tight-knit unit, 55 seconds on the clock. They've decided to invade the Velocity jungle. They get a ward down on the blue buff, as well as a ward on the Wolf Camp grass, I guess I can call it. And they decide to back away. So they'll have full information on NKInk's route.
This is pretty funny, because all yesterday we were calling out the repeated red side invades of every team and how everybody's predictable. So this time, oh, they switched it up. Both teams actually made blue sides instead. So again, swing and abyss, nobody meets.
No combat just yet, but all the information has been shared. We do see an early pink ward has been placed down by Coast to deny the vision of Velocity. So just trying to starve their opponents of the resource and of the information they were hoping to work with.
But as I said before, when you pick both Thresh and Nami, side bush vision control is really important in those lanes. If you end up heading to a 2 versus 2 lane, because casting both Death Sentence or Aqua Prison from out of Fog of War means that they'll have a much higher chance of landing. So not having that pink ward for lane phase is actually a big deal.
We do see, it's a double bubble, because throws both Jarvan and Gragas up in the air. MapleStreet's trying to put some damage down, and they basically just kill a ward and decide to back away. But MapleStreet and Evaniskus still looking to play.
So the attack was in the air, and they actually were both able to kill each other's pink wards before the vision ran out right there. Smite means they should be able to get this one, though.
Well, we do see ZionSpartan's going very low. That's 300 HP. He's down to 200. The expunge isn't going to be enough as he flashes over the wall. NintendudeX is able to secure his blue buff, but at the cost of his smite.
That's a huge price to pay for that blue buff. There's the song. We'll just moment of silence. There you go. Anyway, that was a huge price to pay, and that's actually going to hurt Zion a lot. He will have to play so much more defensively in that bottom lane, and he actually burns his teleport as well to get back to lane, even though it's still fairly far pushed up.
So he doesn't want to lose anything more right at the moment. Feeling definitely under the pressure of that bubbles thrown up from Evaniskus. Nintendu goes very low. They should be able to clear this one up. Down to below 100 HP in the jungle.
Yeah, you can see the effect of that early harass that came from Evaniskus and MapleStreet, affecting not only the 2 vs 1 lane, but the jungle as well.
So we'll see how well Nintendu can bounce back from this. He's actually picked himself up that Hunter's Machete, as opposed to going for the Doran's Blade start, which is something we've seen him do a couple of times when he does play that Jarvan. So going a little bit more standard, if I can call it that.
And now we have Elise coming in for the 3 vs 1 situation. We've seen so many times today that the solo laner will just back off and leave, but Zion's actually staying in for this one. So there's potential for a tower dive, and we'll have to use the repel of NKInk to be able to pull this one off, because there's 2 members now of Coast.
Got to be very careful. The volatile spiraling goes out, deals a little bit of damage. Bubble once again throws up ZionSpartan in the air. No knockup means that NKInk can get away safely, just taking one gentle love tap from NintendudeX.
Meanwhile, we have the proxy of DontMashMe and Daydreamin already. Even without the support of a jungler, they were able to shove Renekton off of his own turret.
And Vileroze is currently sitting still at level 1 as we approach the 5-minute mark. We've seen the tower swaps, as it were, with TSM earlier today.
And Vileroze still has 0 CS right now, though he is doing something that I often call out for pro players that I like to see, where he's not just waiting at his turret outside of experience range doing nothing. At least he's gone and he's doing something, and he's getting some wolves killed.
So I'll get at least a little bit of gold and some experience on the board. His top tower is Team being chunked down by the minions, really. DontMashMe and Daydreamin, they're just trying to deny golden experience from their opposite number as opposed to drop their tower quickly. Whereas MapleStreet and King Evaniskus, they're bashing away on this tower.
Ooh, another bubble lands here. That means a couple more free attacks.
The Cocoon catches out ZionSpartan. They continue auto-attacking down, and that's good harass and good damage to that objective.
Nintendo is happy to come stay at this turret and help defend it because their top lane was able to get the turret just with the duo. So all they had to do is hold out as long as possible for reinforcements in that bottom lane.
So NK Inc. is now trying to pick up some kills on the Nine-Tailed Fox in the mid lane. Was moving up, his buffs have worn off, and there was a million
going in
pings.
behind them for bottom. He's counting on the overextension for the turret.
There's the flag and drag. They knock up MapleStreet in the air. Barrier is out, as is the barrier. On the other side, Golden Age is going to shield up the damage. First blood secured by NintendudeX. Very sneaky coming in from behind.
That is something that you can use even in solo queue. You play on the greed of your opponents. If your objective, that bottom turret, is very low, you can bet a lot of the time that your opponents will overextend because they want to finish off that turret. Great job there by Nintendo, making him pay for it.
Well played for him to at least make up some of that early game deficit that he was feeling. He secured first blood as well, so you can see that.
Oh, he more than made up for it. That was delicious.
You can see that on the first back for ZionSpartan, NintendudeX, and Shiphtur. They've secured a bunch of wards. Sight and vision wards down the list, double Doran's rings, as well as the amplifying tome for Shiphtur in the mid lane. They'll be returning with that extra oomph in their kick.
And the reason, like we said before, that Daydreamin is bringing those pink wards is so that they can get that very important side bush coverage. He doesn't want to have to waste that pink ward somewhere else on the map, so even Nintendude helping out grabs one for himself as well.
Can be especially effective when dealing with a stealthed up Twitch as well. If any of those ganks or fights take place, you can see NintendudeX now moving himself towards this mid lane, trying to apply some more pressure. Out of the 20-odd games the team has played throughout this split, he's played Jarvan 8 times this season. That is an extensive amount of experience at this level of play with that champion.
And he's played a lot of other ones, like we talked about in Champ Select, you know, the Gragas or even like Leona champions, but he definitely has not had the same level of success on those. So probably better for the team that he's returned to the old standard.
And you can see that with that tower going down in the top lane, the duo move to the bottom lane. That's a flash play. They pull MapleStreet backwards. Now there is a pink ward for Nintendo. Is he going to put it down? Decides against it as they're too close to their opponent's base. But a flash flay from Daydreamin, that's making it real fly.
It was really great plays by both supports there, actually. Daydreamin's part getting everything started, but then Evaniskus with the good reflexes to stop everything with that Aqua Prism.
Locking everybody up in the air. What it does mean, though, thanks to the damage that Coast have applied, they've got a numbers advantage here on this dragon. Sponge is available, MapleStreet, and King goes in, steals it, gets stunned against the wall, does end up getting, dropped for his troubles, but he stole it away.
One life is worth an objective like Dragon taken as long as Coast aren't able to make something happen in this mid lane and shove back while Elise's death timer is ticking.
So well played. We'll see how effectively Coast can push this mid lane down. They've got a very strong numbers advantage. All 5 members of the team are here, and they're going to be able to take this down.
Velocity need to shove both side lanes as hard as they can. Even though Nami's the only one in that bottom lane, she has to use what she's got to try and get those minions to the turret and make up for the fact that Coast have 5 people at the mid.
So it doesn't look like that's the decision here from Velocity. They seem to be panicking as they decide to try to congregate in this mid lane. Blue buff is spawned up, and Coast are going to deny this from their opponents. Velocity losing their first buff of the game.
So that actually turned back in Coast's favor here. They were able to make use of their power play time while NK was off the map to take not only the mid turret, but immediately invade that blue side and get the cooldown for it.
So well played
or the
to
timer.
them. The timer on that one and got control of it if they want to invade in the next game. In the previous matchup, we've seen how well Dignitas could control Curse's blue buff, and it worked in their favor very well. Against an Orianna as well, go figure.
Well, yeah, against an Orianna, but their team is running double AP. So double blue buffs is extremely important to this Coast team. They can have it not only on the mid laner Shiphtur using Ahri, but they could also give the other one to Zion.
double IP, going for double blue buff, being doubly as effective, as one might say. You can see the dual lanes have decided to normalize right now, with Coast having 2 towers down. You can see MapleStreet and Evaniskus, they have now put themselves in this moment to face off against DontMashMe and Daydreamin. So I guess whoever lands the Q better is going to be able to set up a kill here.
That's going to be pretty much the story of this one. And MapleStreet, since he used Poison to harass, means he won't be able to get in turret range and put any damage on the turret. Because if you have any sort of dot ticking on your enemy and you're in turret range, the thing will target you.
Yeah, it's going to hurt you, that's for sure. MapleStreet right now, 20 creeps behind his opposite number. Nobody wants to be behind creeps when your opponent is a Vayne. DontMashMe is getting himself closer to that Blade of the Ruined King and going to be able to start putting a lot of hurt down on his opponents.
There's the Pink Ward in action right now. We have NK Inc. sitting on the tri-bush where the Pink Ward's placed, and they saw Daydreamin put his ward in this side bush in the river. Here's the action. NK's going to come in, though.
The flake goes up. They haven't started focusing MapleStreet just yet. NK Inc. has joined the party as the teleport comes down. ZionSpartan is now in here. This is going to be a 3 versus 2. Nami's the first victim to fall as they turn their attention to the rat. Now MapleStreet's going to be the second victim in this fight. NintendudeX does have Cataclysm, slams his foot down as the Fox comes in, tries to pick up a kill on the Spider. Command Protect goes out. The Shockwave pulls him back in range of the tower. They do manage to escape thanks to the Dark Passage, and the Poison plus Ignite is going to be enough to drop down ZionSpartan.
Nobody wanted to ride the train, but with the Shockwave Ignite combo, Ecco is able to pick up a red buff here.
At least that's going to play into his favor if he gets any auto attacks down. Team Coast with a numbers advantage going to take out their 3rd tower of the game, and there are no more outer turrets standing as Coast have a 4-1 kill lead and a 3,000 gold lead.
Velocity have taken that opportunity, though, to tell Vileroze, you can push top lane with impunity right now. Nobody's going to come stop you. So he's doing his best to try and answer.
So he's doing his attacking as quickly as he can. NK Inc. is a little bit low. NintendudeX has red buff and some mana. He goes back in onto NK Inc. NK Inc. should have his repel available. Is going to throw himself up, and MapleStreet secures the kill.
Great job there by NK Inc. He's not scared to initiate with only 4 bars of life because he knows he can fall back on that repel at any time. And he was baiting in Nintendude for MapleStreet to just blow him up.
So at the very least, MapleStreet is going to have that little bit of extra gold to work with. He's decided to pick up that Berserker's Greaves first, as well as the Vamp Scepter, whereas his opponent has already got double attack speed daggers, as well as that Bilgewater Cutlass to work with. So DontMashMe is feeling a lot more comfortable about his potential damage in these upcoming fights.
He will be feeling very comfortable because they've got their outer perimeter defense is still up. Every single tower here for Coast still standing, whereas Velocity have nothing to fall back on. So they have to set up a new line that will just be wards, and so they can keep vision of Coast movements inside of their own jungle.
And we were talking about itemization here for Team Coast and wondering what ZionSpartan was going to build on that top lane, Gragas. He's already completed his Morella Nomicon, so going for that cooldown reduction, sustain, and just getting his mana back, I suppose. It's a very effective item in that regard. It just allows him to get more barrels out during the course of a team fight.
And we always talk about the different times of power spikes. Oh, wow. This is going to be a meet here.
That's a knock-up on Evaniskus, but they turn it right back around. Tidal Wave goes out, catching both Nintendude and Shiphtur. Shiphtur's now re-engaging thanks to that Spirit Fire of his. A Shockwave catches 4 members. Now the pressure's on. Repel goes up in there, but there's nowhere to go but down. NK Inc. drops, sinks his fangs into NintendudeX. They trade 1-for-1, jungler on jungler. Evaniskus gets caught out, thrown backwards and dropped thanks to Shiphtur's Orb of Deception.
Evaniskus sticks around a little bit too long there. He actually goes in to put the exhaust down. So not only does he burn his summoner spell, but also his life.
Well played by NK Inc. to at least pick one up there.
And that was a really good job of synchronizing the ultimates from Coast. We had Nintendude turn around to put the Cataclysm, and as soon as the Cataclysm was done, keeping Velocity in place, we had Daydreamin follow that up with the box. So they basically had the exact same area for about, 6 or 7 seconds there, locked down by various CCs.
Thanks to the kills that they've just secured, another blue buff gets taken away, denied from Velocity, as Coast secure that for themselves. And if they can maintain control over the blue buff, it's going to make Echo's life and Orianna much more difficult in these games.
So we had pings come out from Velocity on the Dragon because they know that it's up and they would love to contest it, but since they didn't have the vision of everyone recalling, they didn't take the chance to rush that Dragon. And now it's going to be up to Coast here. They still have the upper hand. With all the gold they just got, they purchased the rest of these items here that they're able to start this team fight.
Velocity are going to have nightmares about yesterday's Dragon fights, that's for sure. Coast have got positioning on this one. They've got the numbers advantage. MapleStreet is a mile and a half away.
Whoa!
We do see Inky Ink gets charmed up, locked in place. The Flay actually throws him backwards. Now Daydreamin is the one that gets bubbled. They focus Inky Ink. Shockwave goes up. That didn't deal damage to anybody it needed to. Shiphtur's been untouched on this fight. They have traded kills back and forth, though, as ZionSpartan is the first one to go down. Tidal Wave gets thrown out as MapleStreet is finally in the fight, but at the end of the day, Coast come out victorious.
Such a dangerous move by Velocity trying to contest there without MapleStreet with them. They had a huge part of their team not there and not ready to put out the damage. So they did get caught out and lost both of their tankiest members.
Right now, though, this does allow Velocity to at least put some damage in this mid lane tower. They catch out a Shiphtur's Ari, but it's not going to be enough for them to dive or go for any sort of kills there. Instead, they back away. They'll be happy just a couple of auto attacks.
Again, so another Dragon here going down for Coast. Means they're doing a good job of extending the lead and not letting up on the pressure that they are holding over Velocity.
Right now, DontMashMe, he's moving his way down to this bottom lane, trying to at least control that minion wave that's pushing against him. And right now, Coast, they've not lost a single one of those outer towers. They've been omnipresent on this map. At any point, whenever Velocity needed to move in and out of the lanes, it seems that Coast have been there to respond, react, and defend it.
It makes it so hard also for Velocity to try and catch up because they can't extend in a lane without simultaneously warding for that lane, and that means that they're having to spend money just to be able to go continue their farm and try and stay in this game. So their gold gap here is indeed increasing.
At the moment, it's at 4,500 gold as the members of Coast stack up in this mid lane. Once again, Daydreamin, his double AP buddies of Gragas and Aria hanging out there as well. Keep in mind that DontMashMe is not with that primary force in the mid lane. We'll have to see if any hard crowd control lands. NK Ink may get a little bit caught out. Come on, Protector's on, he eats a chomp. That's a great bubble. Pulls 3 in the air as a Shockwave throws him backwards. Look at the explosive damage from the barrels. That's 2 kills in favor of Coast already, as the 3rd and 4th get picked up in quick succession.
That's the importance of that perimeter of wards that I said you have to set up when you lose your turrets. At this point in the game, your jungle is no longer your jungle. You have to ward it because there's nothing protecting you guys from this Coast team.
Team Coast are now onto the inhibitor turret. There's 10 seconds on the death time before anybody can respond. 12 seconds left for Orianna. They may decide to even stick around and continue applying pressure on the inhibitor. Instead, gonna play this one defensively and back away without running the risk.
17-minute inhibitor turret for Coast right here. They just have the pedal to the metal right now. They're not letting up.
That has to be one of the quickest inhib turrets that we've seen all season long. Coast just seeming to, with every engagement they win, take a key and crucial objective from their opponents, whether it's Dragon, Blue Buff, or turrets. And in this case, they're all the way down to the inhibitor in that mid lane.
And the way they're keeping this pressure up is that Oracle's on Daydreamin that he's constantly had ticking. And like you can see right now, he has an Oracle's on him, plus he's got one in his inventory. So he is not going to let any time lapse where they don't have true sight.
One of the things that works in their favor is the fact that he does have, 11. He's been involved in 11 of the team's 12 kills, secured 3 of them himself. That's obviously going to help out his funds in terms of items. He's got those Boots of Mobility completed, as well as an additional Ruby Crystal, as well as that additional Oracles over Evaniskus. Evaniskus just simply not playing the same ward removal bot that he needs to be in this matchup.
Yeah, it's easy to see when you've got a Fed solo laner just murdering people, or a Fed AD carry, Vayne tumbling around getting all the kills. This is what happens when you have a Fed support. You have control over the whole map, and you've got vision here, wards everywhere, and 2 Oracles rocking on both arms. So.
And 5 towers to 0 in your favor. We can see Coast, they're looking to set up a fight here. Vileroze a little bit out of position. There's no flash available. The cast knocks him back to the river, Crocodile's natural habitat, as he gets charmed up back towards Shiphtur. Gets flayed in place, the stun goes down, and it's just a matter of time before he gets dropped. Another kill in favor of Coast.
Again, facilitated by the control that Daydreamin is spending all his money for.
Going to be able to at least, if they continue to maintain that control, it'll obviously just allow Coast to extend this lead even further. We're approaching the 20-minute mark as another blue buff does get stolen away there by ZionSpartan. That's the 3rd consecutive one in a row. And you can see that Coast, they've got their eyes set on this inhibitor.
And this will be an open inhibitor, so they don't have to deal with any added damage from turrets or even from damage from an objective that would be contested. So it's all going to be on the positioning here of MapleStreet. If you're a Velocity fan, you're really hoping for a clear spray and pray line on Team Coast.
And we'll have to see if Velocity can set that one up. Everybody has respawned, so Vileroze is back in this fight. He does have his flash available. Daydreamin gets bubbled up as Nintendu throws himself forward. The cocoon misses. Death Sentence doesn't land either as Vileroze eats the first charm of the fight. DontMashMe has been untouched in the backline, continues to hammer away on that inhibitor. Couple of attacks away, Tidal Wave gets thrown out. Evaniskus deciding this is the time to defend. After people take a ride, nothing else happens.
Nintendu rides out that wave, and they are able to keep up on this turret. They're not, or this inhibitor. They're not going to leave here because nothing has forced them back, and that's actually a large cooldown. That's not going to be available for Velocity.
Daydreamin likes to get locked up in that prison because another one that he eats in this particular fight. Now finally going to take this inhibitor down. Minion or Shiphtur will land the last hit, and they decide to back away safely.
So the plan for Velocity here that they were looking for there, by the way, the reason they didn't go in is they have to have a perfect ball delivery for their shockwave. They need to have it either on NK Inc. to go in and close that distance, or to put it on Vileroze to close the distance and suck people into a small enough area that when MapleStreet does pop spray and pray, he'll be hitting all of them.
They finally caught down a NintendudeX, and I'm not sure that's the target they want. Dark Passage is thrown out, Nintendu gets away cleanly. Daydreamin does have Death Sentence available in just a moment or two. Let's see where it lands. And Zion, there's a flyby with that barrel.
That was a over-the-shoulder one. Very, very nice. Now he does get bubbled up inside the bush, but no vision means it's going to be hard for Velocity to capitalize. And you can see the flip side here. Team Coast are doing the opposite, where they're keeping their Vayne away from their Ahri. Their two, high priority targets here. They want to keep them spread so there's not the opportunity for that shockwave to group up their damage dealers.
NK Inc. almost eats himself a Death Sentence. Vileroze slices forward, dices backwards. Bubble does catch on to DontMashMe, but nobody else has jumped in yet. A cleanse instantly blown there as well as Flash. That is a great play from Velocity, but is it enough to catch him?
That's really huge, actually. Having Vayne without summoners gives them some hope right now. So now, the next piece of the puzzle would be that shockwave.
NK Inc. gets stunned against the wall. Bubble lands into Daydreamin once more. Tidal Wave is available for Evaniskus. Keep that in mind. Velocity are backing away, and it looks like they're going to decide to give this one up.
Another turret goes down. More money in the bank.
While that was happening, first tower of Team Coast does get dropped, as minions were able to take down that top lane tower thanks to all the damage Vileroze put on there earlier in the matchup. That big wave played into their favor and finally took it down.
Coast now just going to continue up and take everything on the map. When they have so much ward coverage and they're keeping Velocity pinned up inside their own base, there are so many resources that Coast have to choose from to pick up on their backs like this. And you can see them all splitting up. They can send each character to go get their own buffs, their own dragon kills here, and they're just accumulating so much more than Velocity are, having been stuck inside their base.
Yeah, and talking about all the gold that's been accrued, all the objectives that have been taken down, the items that have just been completed on the side of Team Coast. Blade of the Ruined King, another Oracles, Phantom Dancer, Aegis of the Legion, Abyssal Scepter. In reply, the only item for Velocity completed in the same time frame is a Bloodthirster. So there's a small item disparity between these two teams right now.
That's what happens when you're winning a League of Legends game. They've got so much money right now that they can boost the power of each of their members. They don't even have to rely on a late game Vayne, because Shiphtur, with his burst damage Ahri build right now, can take out anyone besides Vileroze of Velocity, and besides NK Inc.
We'll have to see how quickly he can actually land that charm. I suppose if he gets the charm down and locks up NK Inc. before Repel, that could even work in his favor. You can see Coast starting to group up towards this top lane. They've got the towers down the mid lane, a wave pushing in their favor against Velocity, and Super Minion still in the mid lane.
Again, Daydreamin just double-fisting these Oracle Potions. He is chugging one and holding another still in the inventory. They are looking for a Death Sentence to land to start it up, but they don't even want that to be the main play for Team Coast here. They just want that to start up the fight. The main play is ZionSpartan ulting Velocity's team apart so that Shiphtur can pick off MapleStreet dashing in with that Ari and single target bursting him down using that Deathfire Grasp.
We'll see if they can make that one work, because ZionSpartan takes a single tower hit for his troubles. Velocity forced to respond to these super minions, and instead of sending one man to defend, their entire team falls back. Coast will say thank you very much. Lucky number 7. 7th tower of the game falls.
That's the danger of defending those secondary turrets. Because there's walls so close on both sides, it forces your team to group up, and that's what Velocity cannot afford, because if they did, then we would have that combo of the Zion ulti. Oh, Evaniskus gonna face check!
This is gonna be painful, gets knocked up in the air, Charm lands as well. Nintendo does have Cataclysm, he slams it down. NK Inc is forced to repel up in the air, can jump to some minions in a second. Silver Bolt proc, plus NintendudeX secures the kill, and Vileroze just gets shredded.
That's what happens when you're blind on Summoner's Rift. They don't have vision of the Baron area. They get antsy. They feel like they need to go contest it, and they pay for it.
They give up 3 more kills. They give up another tower. Inhibitor number 2 of the game is about to drop, as the blue side inhibitor will be respawning in a moment or two. That will be in the mid lane. But right now, with 10 seconds on the clock, Coast, they've got the world as their oyster. May decide to try finish.
Quite a dominating performance here from Team Coast. And an inhibitor does respawn, though.
Evaniskus just gets back up in the air and gets popped thanks to another charm in the face. Charming performance from Shiphtur. 4-0-8. It seems to be the counter to Velocity as far as Coast is concerned.
Daydreamin did a good job filleting that fish. Setting him up perfect for Shiphtur. Served it to him on a platter.
Served him on a platter. Cold, well, I suppose that Ari sets things on fire, so you could say it was cooked. Death Sentence flies wide of NK Inc. Has now Coast with both inhibitors down in the top and mid lane. They've now set their attention and focus on this bottom lane, and it's a matter of time. They either force a fight into the tower or Velocity responds to
Velocity
super
aren't
minions.
giving up, though. You can see how MapleStreet has put all of his money onto this Divine Sword.
So we do see the tidal wave goes out, manages to be avoided by most members of Team Coast, not willing to surf this time round. Shockwave pulls 3 members back as the first victim of the fight is MapleStreet. DontMashMe is relatively unscathed. The ZionSpartan goes beyond the inhibitor, trying to pick a fight. Another tower falls, and Team Coast pick up the 3rd inhibitor of the game. With 25 seconds of the clock before MapleStreet is up, they could finish the game right now.
Yeah, so MapleStreet, he had to spot that Sword of the Divine, and what he's looking for is to get the 3-shot kill so that the cooldown on it does get reduced, but they don't have enough damage to follow that up. So it's just a little bit too late for their Velocity.
DontMashMe eats the cocoon, manages to tumble away from the bubble. As now we see Nintendo going back in alongside Shiphtur. Another 3-man Cataclysm. Shiphtur dives into the jungle, throws himself between the walls to secure himself another double kill. 6-0-9 on that Ari, as DontMashMe is mashing away on the Nexus. 20 kills to 4. Team Coast with a clear victory in this game.
Zion can't help on the Nexus, though. There were too many minions, so he goes around the side. Regardless, they get the Nexus. Congratulations to Team Coast. Dominating performance.
They managed to end their losing streak. That was 5 games in a row that Coast have dropped. They were 7-12 going into this game, and they're now 8-12. Only 1 game behind the 9-11 Dignitas and Curse. If they pick up a victory against them, they'll be tied in that position and back in the running for playoff positions.
Yeah, and definitely a disappointed Velocity after last week picking up those 2 kills.
CLG has
Vulcan and CLG. They were really hoping that the lineup changes were going to put them back into the LCS and really change their story, but a couple of tough defeats this week in the LCS.
Yeah, another difficult position to be in. There were 4 victories and I think 15 or 16 losses right now. As we said, thanks to their record, Cloud9 are guaranteed a position in playoffs thanks to the numbers advantage. And we're starting to get to the point now where this week, and I think maybe next week, if there are not more wins secured for Velocity, they may be guaranteed a non-spot at the NA Regionals.
That would be rough. If you don't even have a hope to get in to the playoffs, that's crushing.
It is a difficult position to be in. We do, of course, have to congratulate Coast once again on their victory. They managed to at least pick up 1 win this weekend, give them a little bit of confidence, a little bit of a boost, and you can't fault their performance. I mean, individually, they made the right plays, whether they were in the 1v1s, whether it was with ganks, anything like that, even though they lost their buffs early on in the game.
They did not waste time. We'll definitely give them that. They got the 17-minute inhibitor turret, which is one of the quickest that we have seen. So a really good job of them focusing on the objectives after they did get the picks and the kills.
Yeah, and that's definitely something they converted many, many times over. Guys, we're going to take a short break, but when we return, Team Coast Shiphtur will join us to talk about his charming performance, and Team Coast